Hey, welcome, brother. I'm Sven Masterson, one of the co-founders and mentors on Mentoring Men. And in this video, I want to respond to the idea or frustration or question we often get when we talk to men who are experiencing relationships and trying to figure out how to navigate through this season of disillusionment, hurt, and pain and bewilderment that they experience. Usually this is happening because the woman in the relationship has said to the man that we're talking to, she needs space, she needs to find herself. She might say, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. She might be asking for a separation or a divorce, a number of things. A lot of times there's a physical affair, an emotional affair, and we help these men navigate this space in a way that is as emotionally satisfying and easy as possible. I know it's hard to think about navigating a rough patch like that in an emotionally satisfying way. And so let me just talk for a minute what I mean about that. What I mean is being able to go through that and hang on to yourself and to experience the range of human emotions that come from very difficult challenges, but to not get pulled into the toxicity of things like resentment and contempt and malice and hatred. Those are easy traps to fall into for men who are experiencing the threat to their relationship or the dissolution of a relationship, especially when a man has felt betrayed and hurt. And so when we start talking to these men about taking a high road, which is not a road that accepts the person's behavior, but is a road that does accept that the circumstance is what they are. And so when we start talking to a man about taking the high road and maintaining an inner sense of calm, about maintaining a value system and virtue, even in these very difficult and dark and complex times, one of the first questions these men will generally come to is this idea of being used. In fact, even men in a long-term relationship who are not experiencing one of these challenges will still at some point struggle with this same feeling of being used. Now, a great way to know if you're feeling this way is if you're walking around telling yourself that you feel like a cash machine, an Uber driver or a taxi driver. You feel like you're a security guard. You feel like all you do is go out, work for the benefit of others, shuttle kids around, pay for everybody's expenses, and basically make sure everybody sleeps safe and sound. Those are the things men start to tell themselves when they're starting to experience resentment for the role they're playing in the relationship. And these men in relationships, whether they're going sour or not, will start to say things like, at what point does being virtuous become being a doormat? And so this feeling of being a doormat is something we run into as men and husbands and mentors of men and husbands all the time. So I want to give a little bit of space to talk about this idea of being a doormat. How do you know when you're being a doormat as a man instead of a man who's acting virtuously? It's actually really, really simple in principle to figure it out. But I want to take some time to unpack it because it might not be the easiest thing to explain. Here's a top-level summary. I know I'm being a doormat when I am sacrificing something authentically true so that I receive something I need from someone else. Let me say that again. I am being a doormat when I sacrifice something authentically true for me in exchange for receiving something that I want or need or desire from someone else. And so this is a pattern that happens in all relationships, especially where a man has insecurity. Now, very few men come to us with this question of being a doormat with the self-labeling of insecurity. Very few men actually see themselves as insecure, and if they did, they would be mostly ashamed to admit it. But insecurity just means there's parts of us inside that we do not trust ourselves, or we're not entirely sure that the composition of what's inside of here is good. And everywhere I have an insecurity as a man or a human, I will look outside of myself to find somebody to provide for that deficit. So if I lack, for example, deep trust in myself, I will have a hunger for people to express trust in me. It's a way I will feel like I'm okay, that I have value and worth and significance. And those are the areas that we tend to sacrifice something true and dear and important to us. And we do it because we're playing a transactional game of giving up something that we hold dear in exchange, or in the hope of exchange, of getting something back that we need. And so the way to know if you're being a doormat is if you're being inauthentic. Because if I wake up and I want to do XYZ thing today, let's just say I want to go for a bike ride. It's really important to me to go for a bike ride. And so my plan today is to go for a bike ride. And then my wife walks in the room and she says something like, hey, I was kind of hoping I could go play tennis today and you could watch the kids. Now, there's two ways I can respond to that moment. I could say internally, well, I really wanted to go bike riding, but I'm afraid to upset her. And so I'm afraid if I upset her, maybe she won't want to spend quality time with me tonight. Maybe she won't want to be intimate. Maybe she'll be angry. Maybe we'll get in an argument. And so I want peace. I want connection. I want a sense of security. I want calmness. I don't want arguments. And so even though I really want to go bike riding today, I'm going to go ahead and just capitulate to what she wants so I can have those things. Now, when you do that, you will absolutely feel like a doormat. You will feel resentment because you traded something authentically important to you in exchange for the hopes of getting something from someone else. And those things you want from someone else are all things that you only want from other people because you do not generate it within. And so if I don't believe, for example, if I don't have a wholeness view of myself, and I believe I don't create connection, my wife does. I don't create peace, my wife does. I don't create okayness, my wife does. Then I will play this game with her where I capitulate to her ask or her request because I want to keep that stuff coming to me. And interestingly, this tends to always produce a response emotionally in the person who gave up their authenticity. Because when we're out of our authenticity, when we're no longer being true to what we want, who we like to be, what we value, and we're doing that in exchange for pleasing or appeasing someone else, we have hard emotions. And so that is the person who's a doormat. Now let's go back to the same scenario. Suppose I woke up today, I want to go for a bike ride, and my wife says, hey, I was kind of hoping to play tennis. And internally, inside, I kind of do a check of my value system and say, you know, what kind of person do I want to be right now? I love this woman. Her free time is important to me. Mine is too, but I can easily play another time, and she can't. Maybe she's got a really busy schedule, and I conclude from my value system, this is an important point, that the most authentic expression of my value system is to prefer her in this moment and say, yeah, go on your bike ride or go play tennis. I'll go on my bike ride later. When you do that as a man, because you're acting authentically and your choice is the authentic expression of your virtue and value system. It's not giving to get. It's not manipulating. It's not trying to appease or please a person. It's simply an act of love at that point. It's an act of self, to be honest. It's me being who I love to be. You won't have a doormat feeling. You won't feel resentment because you're being yourself. And the presence of these hard emotions like contempt, like resentment, like anger and malice and jealousy and rage, they all show up one way or another every time we step out of what's authentically true. And we generally only step out of our authentic truth, out of our integrity, when we believe that the reward for doing so will be better than integrity. As a man, I don't believe it ever is. There's never a good occasion to stop being a man that's true so that someone else can give you something. You'll generally still be irritated. You'll still experience that emotion because what we generally find is we won't like how the person delivered on their end of quote unquote the bargain. In the book, the classic book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Dr. Robert Glover describes this as creating covert contracts. These are contracts we keep within ourselves to basically do something to appease someone with whom we have a dependency-based relationship. And this is fundamentally dishonest. It's manipulative, it's controlling, and it leads to hard emotions. And so when you feel like a doormat, you're doing this thing. You're not being true. You're not being sincere. You're not actually acting the way you would prefer to act. And so really your resentment, your feeling of a doormat, it'll be directed at your partner or at someone else, but it's really a representation of your own feelings within. You see, you wouldn't feel those feelings. I wouldn't feel those feelings if I had just done the real and authentic thing. And so that's how you know when you're being a doormat, is the presence of these hard emotions. If you're walking around with these emotions, you're being inauthentic. And by being an inauthentic man, you are going to be a doormat because you're going to keep exchanging some pretty important things for you. Things like your sense of value, your sense of worth, your sense of self. You're exchanging all of those with the person with whom you're dependent upon in order to try to get something back. And they're not going to give it to you in a measure that's going to be satisfying. Now, if I've piqued your curiosity with this conversation and this idea, I would invite you to reach out and talk with me a little bit about it. This is a hard part of a relationship to navigate, and if you don't understand what's going on, it can ruin the relationship. It can bring it to a complete and utter end because those emotions are like cancer that just eat away at a man's soul. They'll eat away at your relationship. They'll eat away at your intimacy, your connection, everything. And so if you don't know how to process those, if you don't know what to do, I want you to reach out, connect with me, connect with the Mentoring Men community, because we do know what to do. We know how to be free from those emotions. We know how to guide men out of them, from freedom from them, and show them how to live authentically and openly with a warm heart, a clear mind, with a good understanding of our values, and make decisions in those moments that reflect that perfectly. And we're ready to talk to you about that, whether that's within our community or in a face-to-face free complimentary call. I invite you to explore both of those in the links below. With that, I wish you a good day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.